My name is Vanessa Martinez, and today I'll be discussing how adult learning principles guide my work as both a classroom educator and a grade level chairperson. I'll discuss how these principles help establish necessary boundaries while also challenging them to promote deeper learning and professional growth. As both an educator and a grade level chairperson, I work with students and with fellow teachers to create effective learning environments. Adult learning principles play a big role in how I engage with both groups, setting clear expectations while also encouraging autonomy and growth. Today, I will discuss how I use these principles to set effective boundaries while also challenging boundaries and fostering growth. As I begin, I'd first like to define the key adult learning principles that inform my approach. First and foremost, I followed Knowles' 6 assumptions of andragogy, which is a set of assumptions that propose that adults are self-directed learners, bring prior experiences, and learn best when content is relevant and problem-centered. Second, I follow Mesereau's transformative learning, which is where an individual learns by questioning their assumptions, leading to personal and intellectual growth. And I also follow self-directed learning, which is where an individual takes ownership of their learning, requiring autonomy and reflection. Establishing boundaries in the classroom. So in my role as a classroom teacher, I believe that boundaries provide structure in the classroom, which ensure that my students feel supported and guided. I do this by setting clear expectations and scaffolding. I create structured lessons while allowing students to gradually take more responsibility for their learning. I explain our weekly or unit objectives to ensure that my students know what we are learning and why it is important for their personal and academic growth. Additionally, this drives their internal motivation and their individual growth. I offer situated learning experiences. I make sure that I connect the lessons to real-world applications, which makes learning meaningful and engaging for my students. I use students' prior experiences to make connections and interact with the learning that's happening within our classroom. Additionally, as stated by the National Academy of Sciences, the social practices of schools, such as coordinated activities and routines, reflect the culture of that school and the goals and values of the larger society, which helps individuals navigate that culture. I believe that this, in turn, associates with Knowles' assumption that an individual's readiness to learn is life-related and is also related to the social roles, which is why I try to make sure that I offer these situated learning experiences. I also offer experiential learning. I incorporate hands-on activities where my students apply concepts through practice and reflection. This allows my students to engage in practice by doing things, by talking to one another, and reflecting with each other. And as stated by Wegner Trainer and Wegner Trainer, there's no substitute for direct engagement in practice as a vehicle for learning the competence of a community. These learning activities also allow my learners, my students, to experience imagination, which is also a powerful tool that can put my students in someone else's shoes in a different place and can let them think and believe in anything. These experiences and these activities, and by doing this, I believe that I've created that classroom community, which has set these boundaries for my classroom. And again, the goal is to balance the structure and autonomy, so my students feel both supported and challenged. Additionally, I try to give my students as much and as many real life experiences and opportunities to make connections in the classroom. Because as Orman states, learning is a change as a result of an experience. Challenging boundaries in my classroom. While structure is important, I also believe that I need to challenge students to think critically and become independent learners. By doing this, or in order to do this, I try to follow the Mesereau's transformative learning approach, which is where I try to put that transformative learning in action. I encourage students to reflect on their learning, question the different assumptions that they've made, and I encourage and engage inquiry based learning and discussions within my classroom. I firmly believe that students learn best from one another, so I make sure to include as many opportunities for student collaboration, whether it's table talk, peer to peer opportunities, or turn in talks or think pair shares. I also foster self-directed learning. I create opportunities for free choice, which allows my students to explore their interests within the structured learning framework in our classroom. I first start doing this by practicing the social learning theory, in which I model for my students and let them learn through observation. The I do, we do. And then I move into the social cognitive theory, in which I promote and encourage my students to take control of their own learning, which is the you do part. I believe that challenging boundaries gives meaning to my students and it gives them the tools to take ownership of their learning and to think beyond the classroom. Now, establishing boundaries as a grade level chairperson. As a grade level chairperson, I apply these principles in a leadership capacity by creating structured professional development opportunities for my colleagues. One way of doing this is by facilitating structured collaboration. I lead professional learning communities or PLCs where myself and teachers share insights, analyze student data, and develop strategies together. We engage with one another by participating in these communities and our landscape of practice. And I firmly believe that by doing this, we can benefit one another. Actively engaging in communities of practice is important as it gives educators or teachers the opportunity to share their knowledge, collaborate, and stay current within the profession, as stated by Wegner Trainer and Wegner Trainer. I also encourage alignment through data driven making. As Wegner Trainer and Wegner Trainer stated, our engagement of practice is rarely effective without some degree of alignment with the context. So, in reviewing student data, I work with teachers to ensure that activities are coordinated and within the content, and the instruction that is being delivered is intentional. Just the way I do with my students, I also do it with my staff because every individual is different and every individual has a different personality and learns differently. So I also scaffold the professional development that I offer my teachers. I guide our teachers through skill development while gradually encouraging them to also take on leadership roles within their classroom, within our grade level, and our campus. Additionally, I do believe in shared accountability. I set clear goals for student achievement and for teacher growth, which ensures that we stay focused while also promoting innovation. We work together to grow a reservoir of experience, as Knowles called it, which is a rich resource of learning for everyone involved. Challenging boundaries as a grade level chair. So, just as I challenge my students to take ownership of their learning, I also encourage our teachers to push the boundaries in their professional growth. One way of doing this is by promoting innovation. I try to create spaces for teachers to experiment with new strategies and take risks in their own teaching. Whether this is me going into a classroom and modeling a lesson for them, or within a PLC or a professional learning committee, sharing ideas off one another, or giving them different strategies and encouraging that information. That is one way that I do that. I also try to empower our teachers to be self-directed in their professional growth. As one of Knowles's assumptions of andragogy, as a person matures, their self-concept moves from being dependent towards being self-directed. I encourage teachers to lead initiatives, explore new methodologies, and reflect on their practices. Additionally, I try to encourage our teachers and foster continuous learning. I am a huge believer in learning. What someone learns, no one can take away, and life is ever changing. So I try to encourage for regular reflection, offer peer feedback to one another, and collaboration so that I can ensure that we're always growing as educators. Knowles' adult learning principles are an important aspect in education and within my landscape of practice, as it can engage or disengage teachers and educators. Transformative learning and motivation to learn also plays a crucial role in my landscape of practice. As I mentioned, our field is constantly changing and transforming. So we as individuals need to make sure that we are constantly and continuously learning. Additionally, active listening also plays a role within my landscape of practice, as one cannot learn and play an active role within the landscape if active listening is not taking place. Being able to align the adult principles, integrate ways for transformative learning, and motivate to learn for learning to take place, and active listening can highly benefit myself and others within this profession. So, just to sum up and wrap up some of the things that I've discussed, boundaries provide structure but should also encourage growth. Adult learning principles can create a better understanding of an individual and can guide both teaching in the classroom, which is one thing I do, and leadership and professional development, which I also do as a grade level chair, that allow me to challenge boundaries within my landscape of practice. I do believe in a balance between structure and autonomy, which fosters deeper growing, deeper learning, and also challenges and sets those boundaries. And lastly, encouraging reflection and self direction that not only empowers teachers and students, it also empowers myself. By applying these principles, I believe that we can create environments where learning is both structured and transformative, and also allows me to set those boundaries, establish those boundaries, and challenge those boundaries. And my references are listed here. Thank you.